I knew that was coming, but yeah, very well delivered.
Yeah. Dennis, happy hour evening to you, my friend.
It is. It's a happy hour. It's a big day in my COVID life.
Did
You
you
may notice that I'm exercising my right arm periodically.
Oh, I thought you were just
asking a question
like a school child.
Telling you where the sky is.
Dennis, where's the ceiling? Oh, there it is, up there. I see.
Asking who farted.
Did you have a needle stuck in your arm today?
I got a shot in my arm.
Nice.
And as it turns out, when it rained, it poured. I have two scheduled vaccinations suddenly. One which got moved from yesterday to Saturday, which is still on the calendar. True. And then, surprise to surprise, the health department of Kalamazoo County called me and said, "Hey, we're ready for you to get your shot." I said, "When?" She said, "You available tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's between 3 and we got openings between 3 and 7 o'clock. So I take the first one, of course. I'm not going to.
Sure.
If I waited for the second one, they could say, "Oh, we're out again."
Right.
So I went, and it was like a military operation. It was amazing.
Nice.
Perfectly executed, no errors whatsoever, competent, friendly people, delivering it to just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in like a civic center type, old style, like a state fair building.
Right.
Concrete floors or whatnot, but they have big events in there, and so it was interesting. Yeah, so here I am. I'm a little light on the happy hours to mention to you because I really need to pay attention to what's going on here. But that's not to say that I've eliminated happy hour altogether. I am drinking a canned Point Amber, simply named Amber Lager. Just exquisite.
Very good. Very good. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so pessimistic about when it will be available to us here because I don't know. Like, I think some super at-risk elderly folks are able to get it here, but not. Yeah. It's just not as prevalent because
the U.S. just put $1 billion toward, or several billion, I think, toward international COVID distribution. We're back in the international game again, much to the delight of all of our partners around the world who were laughing to his face or behind his back with who Biden calls now that other guy.
Nice. What a great.
That's all. Or the former guy.
And that's exactly the solution to that person that we're referring to has always been to not name the beast and to just say, there's that guy. Yeah, because every time that we say his name, he grows more powerful, or he grew more powerful. So, yes, that is great. I hope, on the one side, I hope the United States and international help is going to countries that need it more than Spain. But on the other hand, we apparently haven't bought enough of the virus or whatever. So I don't know.
It's unclear to me as to how all that works. I think it's been, in fact, I think it's unclear to a lot of people, including people who run countries. But what an exquisite atmospheric change with a competent, meaningful government that is able to deal with policy issues and run the business of the United States with a degree of decorum and an astounding
decorum. What is that?
Refreshing fucking condolence for the dead and concern for families that is so heartfelt. Biden is,
if nothing, it's his biggest strength and his biggest weakness, I think, is his empathy.
Why is it a weakness? Why is it his biggest weakness?
Empathy is important, but if you empathize too much, because empathy means that you are feeling what they are feeling.
Yes.
And if you are with someone that is super sad and you get as sad as they are, you're unable to help them because you need to have.
So that's
you can be over empathetic to the point where if you see something tragic, compassionate is the alternative, where you see that they're suffering, you are aware of their suffering, and but rather than feel it yourself, you go and do some action that can actually help them.
I would argue that the base beginning point of compassion is in fact a proper dose of empathy.
Correct. But it's empathy that is controlled, so you don't go
actually
totally.
Is the driver.
Right.
Empathy-driven compassion.
There you go.
As opposed
EDC.
to.
That's our new slogan.
That would be an acronym, not a slogan.
Well, we'll have to throw this up on the whiteboard and work on it some more.
Yes, our whiteboard is crowded right now with projects. I don't even I don't even know where to begin.
Well, speaking of which, this is the first episode where we actually have like some prepared material that I wrote down.
Oh,
because
glad you got the list.
Have been sending me articles and things, which I'm sure you have mostly forgotten what they are.
We'll see.
As soon as I mention them, you will recall them. But all right,
that may not be true.
First one is an article that you sent me, headlined "Alaska woman using outhouse attacked by a bear, from below."
Yes. So imagine you're in Alaska, and I sent you the link to
the map of where this is. Yes.
They showed you where it was. It's north of Anchorage, so it's an area I'm familiar with. And it doesn't take long anywhere you drive out of Anchorage. You're only going to drive north for the most part, of course, but you're out of city very quickly. And if you take a turn here or there, you're in the middle of nowhere where this is. But imagine her surprise when she sits down on the toilet and is bitten and screams and runs and is sure that it was a squirrel, or I don't know that she mentioned a mouse, but she thought it was a smaller animal. And when she ran with her husband, and she wasn't particularly hurt, I guess, but when she ran with her husband and they went out to the outhouse, a bear stuck his nose through the toilet hole.
Okay, so
she had been bitten by a bear who probably hit her with the very tips of his teeth.
Okay, so let's look at this from the other perspective. You've chosen a nice little hole for your hibernation for the winter, and you're in there with you're the mama bear, and you've got your bear cubs in there, and suddenly human shit is raining down upon you. What do you do?
Well, there's an old saying that applies here. Don't bite the ass that feeds you.
I don't know about feeding.
The feeding, they made the house available for the bear. So that's a manner of speaking.
In that case, yeah, it's not a nice way to treat any pet, though. Like, hey,
it's not a pet. It's
feeding time.
It's a guest. Not a pet. Guest.
But unnoticed, and yeah. Anyway.
So did you see about the dude who took advantage of the liberal zoning laws and got himself a pet and turned his front porch area into a lagoon because his pet is a 12-foot fucking alligator?
You may have mentioned this before, but yeah, it's or I've seen it somewhere. Yes.
So name me another pet that you can't actually pet that someone would actually have.
Can you pet a goldfish?
Sure, I do all the time. It kills them because they're out of the water to do it, but yeah, you can do it. Then you just eat them, swallow them live.
Right.
Or half live.
Can you pet a poisonous?
Goldfish was a good answer, though. Goldfish was a good answer.
Not poisonous, venomous. A super venomous snake.
That's your pet.
Yeah.
Interesting. You've come up with a couple, so it's obviously.
I mean, I could go on.
I'm sure you could. Now that it's obvious to me that it was a pretty stupid question.
We've had a pet,
it wasn't likely to stump you after all.
Well, still early in the night. Yeah, so that was one of the articles that you sent me. You also sent me this guy that does percussive acoustic guitar. It's this Polish teenager who you sent me an article where he was playing Led Zeppelin. But I since have explored his Instagram, which will be in the show notes at happyhour.fm/099. And it's just a different, like he's on a plane by himself.
The percussion aspects of it, since you've seen it now, probably. I looked at it a couple of times. I don't know about you, but
I have, yeah.
You must assume that every sound that you hear is the sound he's making. Otherwise, it would be a sham.
Yes.
So with that in mind, the question is, how the fuck does he make some of those sounds? There's one repetitious sound that I could never see his hands. Maybe I could slow-mo it and see a little bit better, but I didn't know how he was making the sound. His hand appeared to be off the guitar.
I mean, his right hand is just all the time like beating on the guitar or clicking with fingernails or whatever. And as we saw in some of his other videos, he's capable of playing the guitar with only one hand. Like, yeah,
there's an odd one of him brushing his teeth playing the guitar,
which is such a great,
which wasn't attractive to me, by the way. But
no, but it's like the ventriloquist drinking a glass of water.
No, it's not.
Look what I can do.
It'd be like if he had a two-handed puppet. If you're going to use the analogy of a ventriloquist, you'd have to have a puppet on his guitar hand for that to be the case, in my view.
Okay, I guess we will discard that analogy.
Let's throw that up on the whiteboard right now and dig into it a little
and erase it immediately. Let's write that on the whiteboard so that we can erase it.
So you sent me one that was the same kid, but you didn't send me another kid too?
I don't think so. It was just the one kid. But yeah, he's got his whole like branding shit worked out well. Like he is doing, I'm sure he's on TikTok and Instagram and all the important places where a young person needs to be, and repping his merch, and some of the videos were like, thank you to this guitar company for giving me this guitar so that I could perform this video.
Yeah.
Like he's doing the business.
Sort of like what we're doing.
Yeah.
Free beer, free
yes,
scotch.
All of our scotch has been provided for us by our sponsors, who for some reason we're not allowed to name.
Scottish man who lives near the ocean somewhere.
Yeah.
He's got a little radio band.
I just wish his kilt would be a little bit longer. It's like that whole mini kilt thing is not.
Oh, you're lying about that. You like that.
Let's see. Going down the list here, we got another one. We have 3 lessons from the implosion of the Lincoln Project.
Oh.
So apparently the leader of the Lincoln Project turns out to not be a good person.
Right. Lecherous toward young boys.
Yes. A Kevin Spacey-esque character.
Yes, exactly.
And
more verbal from what I read rather than Spacey try to lay down with the kid or whatever.
And this was all like texts. Hey, I could get you a good political appointment if you would chat with me or sext with me, or I don't even think there was any sort of hey, let's meet up in a hotel room sort of thing. It was just creepiness.
Chatty. Masturbatory.
Yeah. And I don't know how, yes, that's creepy, and yes, it should come out that he's creepy, but on the spectrum of what we can cancel people for, you've got Weinstein and Cosby on the far end, and you've got,
to say the least,
and then you've got your Spacey and your Louis C.K. is in the not raping people but being really horrible, and
gross.
Then you've got this Lincoln Project dude whose name I don't even know, and like your Al Frankens and those people that are like,
Al Franken in hindsight was like, he didn't need to resign over that.
Yeah,
please. As it turns out. Hey, the big news for us Never Trumpers is that the Supreme Court, who he selected, who's been disloyal, they're so disloyal to me, said, no, you got to give up your taxes and all of the material that those taxes are based on. And yes, you can back the truck up to our office building and we'll just take a look at it. This is the interesting thing about all that I don't know if folks appreciate that. There was this article in the New York Times that begat a documentary on Trump's tax returns because investigative reporters, in fact, found enough tax returns to be able to make some very clear discoveries and to put a lot of it together. Now, this investigation from Cy Vance from the district attorney in Southern District of New York, he has been studying stuff for 3 years, including but not limited to the New York Times piece. He only needs the documents to prove the case, not to analyze it. He already knows right where to go in these documents. He knows what to look for. He knows because it's already been discovered. And so that means that there could be a quick indictment, which would be fascinating because it wouldn't come from a federal agency at all. It's the Department of Justice U.S. attorney, but it's not coming from the attorney general, but it's coming from maybe I guess it is.
What an amazing, if they released all that information that you were saying he needs to back a truck up to show. God, what an I told you so liberal orgasm that would be.
You can make a sure bet it's not going to be in his library, which is, as I mentioned, a 6-story-foot statue of himself with an elevator up one leg that goes up and an elevator in the other leg that goes down. And you just see movies up and down. There's
just
no
right up there in his crotch.
You get to his crotch, you can walk over and get on the elevator and go down. There's probably a little tiny, when you get off at his crotch and you can turn right to get to the elevator that goes down, there's this little tiny little room that when you open the door, there's nothing in it and it smells like it's shriveled and unused room.
Right. Dusty.
Then you get this, and when you get up to his eyeballs, you look out and you can't see much because it's in a bad neighborhood because nobody would have them. And what it looks toward with those Empire State Building binoculars that are worked right into the concrete for observation decks, it only points you so you can see one of the Trump towers.
What?
That's it. That's his memorial.
What if you try and look at his eyes and it's like a crazy mirror that like makes you look super thin?
If you're fat and if you're thin, maybe it makes you look chubbier. I don't know.
Well, he wouldn't know. The aforementioned unnameable person.
Hey, so I got a new television event for you. There's a book that I read recently that I picked up in one of our neighborhood libraries. We have every 6 or 7 blocks, somebody has put up a little international borrow book library in a little hut that's about the size of a large cooler up on a stand, and you open the door and there's 2 shelves full of books. So you go in, you've taken a walk, you take one out, take it home, whatever. And I found one called Beartown, and I mentioned it to you, I believe. And I really liked it. And it was a very realistic blue collar type.
That's the hockey one.
Yes. So much to my surprise and joy, I found out since the last time we spoke that it's a series. It's a limited series called Beartown. And so I thought, I'm going to be on the lookout for that. I can't wait. It's great because Your Honor, as sucky as it was, at least gave me something to do. That's over.
Right.
And then the other one that we were 30 coins that I reported on, that ended in a crescendo. It ended up to be really, because I do that kind of thing, it ended up to be really interesting. It was fascinating. But I remember.
Put all the coins in the vending machine and then the thing doesn't come all the way down at the end. You're like, damn it.
No, you should have been a screenwriter. That's exactly what they should have done. But and I say for you, it's worth seeing, but you probably won't. But those are done. And so Beartown, all right, let's look for Beartown, because I currently don't have anything. Although I started over with the new Pope. I did episode 1 with the new Pope.
Beartown isn't about some bears that like hibernate and then like people shit on them, is it?
No, that's a different story.
Huh, okay.
I vaguely remember talking about that one episode. Anyway,
some time ago. Yeah, cool.
So so the Beartown, and last night I go to HBO and it's on season 1, episode 1. So one day I see that they're going to show it, and then 2 days later they're actually showing it when I don't have anything to do.
Nice.
And I watched it, and it's in Swedish.
Yeah, Swedish.
And so much like 30 coins, I like it because it helps with my hard of hearing. So I can actually understand every single thing everybody says. Well, I know what they're saying.
You know, you can put the English stuff too, right?
I didn't have to do captioning. It's subtitles in the movie.
Yeah.
What would be interesting is that if I did captioning, which I've got the option, anytime they spoke in English, which they do,
right,
it would have shown it. But they don't go over the top. It knows enough not to go over the top of, or it doesn't know enough to translate. That's probably a better way to put it.
Nice. Yeah. So speaking of HBO, as again with this vacuous hole left in our lives from Your Honor gracefully departing into the night, or not so gracefully, I have taken up your suggestion and have started watching The Young Pope.
The Young Pope, yes. And that's what I started over again.
Oh, that's the one you said. Okay.
After you wrote me. I said New Pope. I meant Young Pope.
Holy fuck. What an opening dream sequence. It's just glorious. Yeah. Like you have to, a lot of times the best episode of any TV series is the pilot, because it has to be so perfect to hook the audience to have them come back. There are many shows where that is the case. And man, that opening thing where you're not sure what the hell is real and what are we dreaming, and is this Pope really telling everyone that we need to forget about God and masturbate more and just have more abortions? And
he didn't say to forget about God. He said, don't take God so seriously.
Right. Yeah. And the opening 5 seconds where he's crawling out from a big pile of dead babies.
What made you think they were dead?
Well, I mean, there was one that was sort of blinking, but it felt very
potential
anti-abortion is what it felt.
I wasn't quite sure about that. I did believe at first that they were dead babies, but the thing that threw me off, which that was not my first thought, because what struck me was that in that clip, as he starts crawling toward the door to get out of the room that he's in, which has either dead and or sleeping babies, he is himself a baby.
Because he's crawling.
The sequence begins with him as a crawling baby, and then he turns into the Pope. But here's the thing that you may recall is that in the dream sequence that went into some depth after he crawled out of the
Yes.
room with the babies, he had a moment where he woke up. And when he woke up, it was bizarre. And he went to the bathroom mirror and brushed his teeth. And then he was naked in front of his wardrobe. And then he suddenly was clothed and he was walking out to give his first address.
That's how I start my mornings.
Me too. Standing naked in front of my wardrobe, trying to decide which of my multicolored robes I want to wear for the day. But because he'd already woken up, you were fooled once again to believe that he was awake, only to know that it was one of those weird dreams, which I've had.
Oh, hell yes.
Where you're dreaming that you're dreaming, and in your dream, you dream that you wake up and you're still dreaming. That's really scary.
I had one the other night where I was so fucking tired that in my dream, I was like, have to go to bed. And I climbed into bed in my dream.
Because that's how to go to bed?
No, I did.
In your dream, you went to bed?
In my dream, I went to bed because I was that fucking tired. So, yeah. Anyway, it's a very evocative series so far. The character development is pretty good. Jude Law, as we saw in The Third Day, he's a good-looking guy on a close-up. Like
you ain't seen nothing yet.
He looks.
You ain't seen nothing.
When his face is filling the screen, it's
this series is so visually tantalizing and provocative.
Well,
and as it moves on, as from prior episode, at least one instance of what I'm about to say is that dancing plays a role, because the Prime Minister of Greenland comes to visit the Pope, and it has a whole sequence in it at the end about her dancing. And what we spoke about was this apparently well-known fact that people in Greenland they hear music, they're going to dance. And it's not unusual to be anywhere in Greenland, apparently, when somebody's playing some music somewhere and people just end up dancing. Maybe they're dancing in the aisles at a supermarket, or dancing while they're standing in line to pick up their prescription, or, or
that's what I do.
Yeah, I dance a little bit more after I pick it up, but anyway.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward. I'm like 3 episodes in now, and there's only 9 or so in the first season. I don't know how many seasons there are. I forgot to double check on that.
There's only one.
Okay,
there's only one.
That's sad. But yeah, I'm looking forward to
the and for reasons you'll know, it has to end. Reasons you'll learn, I should say. But then the next one, which is actually a spoiler, the name of the next one is The New Pope.
The John Malkovich, which is, I think you've said.
Yes. Which is more...
So do these two happen in the same universe?
Well, one might guess that one precedes the other. If the first series is called The Young Pope and the next series is called The New Pope, one might surmise that something might have happened to the young Pope.
Okay, but so there is, because they're listed as 2 completely different series, but it's important to see the young one.
No, it's actually, what you just said is true about True Detective, which is very distinct stories that are not necessarily related. Correct. Other than the fact that it's a True Detective story. This isn't the case.
Yeah, but these are 2 different series. This is not the same. This is not another season.
It's the second season.
It's not listed like that
as the New Pope. It's the second season with a new name called The New Pope. It's in the same location. It has some of the same characters.
Well, of course, it's in the same fucking location. It's the fucking Vatican.
No. Not just.
It's the same universe. That was my question. It's the same universe. The
universe is a bit broad. But that's
the way we talk about like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where there exists a guy named Thor and also a guy named Iron Man, and they are in the same universe.
They're all the same universe.
Whereas
so they can all get together.
Or things that happened in one movie are referenced in another movie.
Yes. Okay. Yes. In that case, so it's in the same universe, but it's also
any common actors, common characters.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in that case, yes. The answer is yes. Okay.
Well, that was what I was more emphatic about it when I said location. It's not just in the Vatican. It's in the Secretary of State's dwelling. It's in the nuns, in the nunnery. It's where he grew up. It's a new spaces too. But the second season, or the reconsidered season 2, might be one way to say, is even more character driven.
Nice. I look forward to consuming it all, because you were very correct. Because you said one time, knowing you're going to love this, and you were not wrong.
So let me ask you this: you've seen how many? 3?
3, I think. Yeah.
Have they started the introduction yet? Did they wait for a couple of episodes before they start doing this wild guitar music intro That
was after this, like 2 episodes. Yeah, where
after 2, so it was beginning at episode 3.
And the guitar song is.
Did you ever consider why?
And I didn't think about why. I recognized what the song is.
Yeah, but do you recognize though that the first 2 episodes had no credits at the beginning at all? They just started showing the episode. So that stuff, that intro only makes sense after you've seen the second episode. If that was shown for the first episode, it wouldn't have made any sense.
Right.
It was too weird for that. But by the time you get to the finish of the second episode, when you see the third one, you say, holy shit, this is going to keep getting better.
Yes, exactly. Yes. It very much, that was my exact reaction of, holy shit, this is going to keep getting better. It really pulls you along on that path. And
the Italian writer, as you'll see in future episodes, I won't give any spoilers here, but his increasing immersion into the Catholic symbols and culture and liturgy becomes reprehensible, and such that any true Catholic would say this series is a mortal sin.
Right. Great. That's right up my alley. I know quite a bit about those, probably not everything about the Catholic symbolism, but I guarantee you I know more about it than the average person that's going to my local church here in Catholic Spain, because I've read more about it and stuff. There you go. So I get this weekly, maybe, email from my local HBO provider telling me, hey, these are the best series going on right now. And sometimes I learn stuff. Mostly it's stuff I've already seen or know, or know that I don't like. But there's one that keeps coming up that seems like something that I would love. I think I maybe tried to watch the first episode, but I can't recall very much if I did. There's this Spanish, like 30 coins. There's this Spanish show called The Ministry of Time. And the concept is there's this government agency that is capable of time travel, and it can go back in time. From the trailer, it looks like they focus a lot on World War II and Hitler and Nazi crap. But
to try to change history?
Yeah. The idea is they can go to times where they know something bad happened and try and prevent it, which is a travel thing.
Would you be able to kill Hitler as a baby?
This is such a wonderful philosophical question that I've read several books that talk about like free will and what that could mean. And the age old question is that exact one, would you go and kill Hitler as a baby? Because as a baby, he's innocent, right?
Yes.
And would you kill an innocent baby knowing that they...
I think my answer would be, I'd be so full of doubt.
Yes.
That I would not.
Exactly. That is exactly where I land. It would be, I might go kidnap baby Hitler and bring him up myself in my own household, but is one of the first things you would do is to use the black magic marker and draw a little mustache on the baby to remind you? Yes, I would. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That's the first thing.
Even though the baby would constantly smell the odor of magic marker.
Hey.
Which
maybe that's what actually caused him to be such a
yes, that's exactly right.
Because his parents drew that little thing,
right? So you kidnapped the baby Hitler, and then come to find out years later that the reason he is the way he is because of you.
Because you were drawing all this, you're putting all those markers under his nose.
No.
Yeah. So anyway, it seems like an interesting series. There was another one in English that I tried watching. It was like Time something or other.
With Randy Quaid?
No, there's a TV show. Maybe where they went back. It was an American one where they went back to, like, I think the first episode was they went back to prevent the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, and it was, I don't know. It wasn't.
Did you see Daniel Day-Lewis's Lincoln?
It did, yes. It was very Lincoln.
How about Sally Field's rendition of his wife?
I don't have a solid memory of that, but I recall that she was.
I do, only because I clicked on it when I was channel surfing the other day. And that is another example of a definite stop along any channel surfing trip. I will watch it for about 15 minutes, no matter where it is. And I had not remembered until I saw it who was the senator he played? Oh, shit. I'm forgetting the actor's name, too. We should move on.
Okay. I did want to do a brief callback to the young Pope, and James Cromwell's acting is just fantastic. For some reason, I thought I had seen his obituary, but he seems to be alive still.
And you would call him, I guess you saw I think you've seen the series 6 Feet Under, or have we just talked about it?
I've seen some episodes of it, but
he's an ongoing character in there, in doing some acting that equals other stuff he's done.
Right.
It's and where the character goes, and he devolves into madness, actually.
Oh, I love Devolution into Madness.
Yeah.
Here we are with episode 99. Dennis's Devolution into Madness.
99. What are you doing next week?
I have an assignment.
You do?
I do. I may be struck by a moon.
You feed any more of my dinner to your dog, old man, and I'll kick you till you're dead.
That reference will make total sense to me next week.
It hasn't the first 100 times you heard it. Well, in and of itself, it's a good thing to say when you're out eating and stuff. You take another French fry off my plate, kid, and I'll kick you till you're dead. That's enough to.
I've said that
to pay attention
many times. Yes. Stupid kids taking my food. Shit.
Surprise.
So another link that you sent me is that your city has been ranked the #1 coolest place, because you're all such cool dogs, in the U.S. with the lowest cost of living. First of all, this headline, is it the coolest place, or is it the coolest place with the lowest cost of living? Because those are different statements.
It's different. It's the coolest place largely because of the cost of living. The criterion of cost of living is one of the primary drivers as to whether you're a cool city, or not to mention all the other things that you would expect. It's one of the reasons that San Francisco, for example, wouldn't ever come up as one of the cool cities.
No.
Even though it's a really cool city,
right?
It doesn't meet the affordability test.
Yes. So I'm always skeptical of these lists, because to me it feels a lot like it feels a lot like SEO, search engine optimization. It feels if my organization can put out a listing that ranks these cities by whatever we decide to rank them by, the people in those cities are going to share the shit out of our article or our publishing or our finding.
Here's a test of your cynicism. Google how many places have been named the coolest city in the past 12 months, and you're likely to find that there's been a dozen, and very likely by the same company that put out this one.
Exactly. I think it's very much a pay to play. I think Kalamazoo may have helped sponsor this in some way. Look, all I'm saying is that every time they put out one of those sexiest men alive listings, the Hollywood actors can always outbid me. They always have a little bit more money that they can offer to the list.
So often
I've never been,
but never, often nominated, but never named.
Exactly. Well, and nominated is like self-nomination, because it's like
always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yes, that's my eternal damnation.
You should translate that to Latin and put it on a plaque behind your bed.
Exactly. That would be so good.
Right?
Yeah.
Often nominated, never named.
Exactly. Hasta nominata.
Been to the dance. Been to the dance, but never been kissed.
See, these just exactly. See, I could have a whole collection of these that I
in the Camino, but never leave the garage.
That's colorful. We will say. I learned today. You might find this interesting. You've seen the movie 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yes, Hal. Why are you asking me?
Exactly. It turns out that the reason what we are doing is called a podcast is directly related to that movie.
I did not know that.
Open the pod bay doors. Do you remember the open the pod bay doors line?
Of course I remember. I have circuitry that is possible to remember everything that's ever been stated.
Exactly.
What's your next question, Hal?
No, Dave.
Good, Dave.
I'm Dave. You're
Who's Hal? Oh, that's right. I'm in the mirror. The robot.
And do you know where they got the name Hal from?
HAL, it's an acronym.
It's a backronym. It's not a backronym either. It's what you get if you take IBM and you roll one letter backwards. I goes to
What?
H, B goes to A, M goes to L. The letter before the letters of IBM is HAL.
Oh,
Isn't that wild?
what the fuck?
Yeah.
But HAL in the movie is an acronym.
They put an acronym to it.
They force an acronym
Yeah.
out of it. Yeah.
But anyway, apparently the pods in 2001 were the inspiration for Steve Jobs to name the iPod, which is why podcasts are called podcasts, is because they were originally available on iPods, and they were like, well, these are broadcasts.
The iPod was the name before the iPad.
Yes, iPod was the MP3 player that Apple came out with. I remember in the year 2000, it was really obvious to me that very soon all the devices that I was carrying on me, my camera, my phone, and my music player, were all going to merge into one device. That was so obvious that was going to happen because MP3s were already a thing, but there weren't any devices that could play. You could store MP3s on. And Apple came out with the iPod, which was basically a hard drive with a little screen on it. I owned the very first one, I believe. And it was really hard to get your music onto the thing because you had to connect to the computer and then select the MP3 files and then copy them over and then wait 45 minutes while they copied over. But then you had this thing where you could go and select any song at any moment and press play. And it was a big fucking brick of a device. I'm sure I have it around here somewhere. And it was game changing. And at that around like soon after that became a thing, people realized that, oh, we could take our NPR program that we release and create an MP3 of that and then put it in some sort of a format where something could go and fetch it, like with an RSS, which is the way podcasts work. It's called really simple syndication, I believe it's called. And what evolved into podcasting came from the existence of the iPod, which came from the name of that thing in that movie, which is wild. Yeah,
That's
man.
interesting, Dave. I did not know that.
Yes. Close the pod bay doors, Hal. You're letting all the heat out.
Open them. I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that.
Close the refrigerator door, Hal.
Now that was the beginning of that movie was one of those iconic events.
The most iconic, yes.
You know, that, and then the monolith.
Yep.
And the apes.
It's unrivaled. Nothing has come close to it.
And what the fuck?
Yeah.
You didn't, and then just the silence.
There's so much silence in that movie.
Going in space.
The words per minute of that movie must be like after the silent movie era, obviously. Duh.
I don't think you mean per minute. I think you mean
the number of minutes with no words.
The average number of words per minute is the lowest.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yes.
Words per minute. That's what it was. Obviously, average was what was meant.
Word per minute at some point is 0, and then later in the show is typical because there's conversation. So I don't think that's the piece of data that you're trying to describe. But anyway, throw it up on the whiteboard next week, and we'll tear into it a little bit.
All right. You mentioned. Let's first go to a darker place. Yesterday, I guess, our beloved superstar Tiger Woods was apparently driving, from what I read in the last news article that I saw, was apparently driving faster than he should have been at 7 a.m. around curvy roads and crossed a couple lanes and hit a barrier and then flipped his SUV and was apparently totally conscious when the help arrived. I assume the help arrived because his SUV is smart and said, there's a crash. I'm going to...
No, a neighbor called it crashed. He rolled in front of a neighbor's house, in front of a man's house overlooking the spot, and they heard the crash. They went on the porch and they called 911 and said, we think there's a man in there. Huh. And just FYI, it was a left-handed downhill curve in a 45-mile-an-hour zone where one officer from the county sheriff's office said that it's not unusual to clock people doing 80 miles an hour on that road. And when they turn the curve, they're suddenly faced with not anymore of a 4-lane road, but now it's a 4-lane road with a median between it, a concrete median that has a sign on 2 big posts that says, "Welcome to Los Verdes," or whatever it is. And then a little while later, there's another sign. He went from the lane he was in, didn't make the curve, hit the median, which catapulted his van in the centrifugal direction of the speed of which he was going. And so the 80-mile-an-hour van become an 80-mile, 3-ton, 2-ton fucking missile rolling end over end, hit a tree that was 8 inches around and sheared it right off. Damn. And kept on rolling until it stopped. And he wondered why he couldn't stand, why he couldn't walk, because he did not know, being in shock, no pain, that he was that injured. Well, why can't I walk?
And he apparently he was totally conscious, but was trapped, and so they had to cut him out or whatever.
They used an axe and a crowbar. It was widely reported that they used the jaws of life, which is false.
It was
false. That's not true.
So
they did not use that. They used an axe and a crowbar.
Which is always interesting. Like the first information that you hear about a breaking news story is so often false, but it has this effect of being. It's like the anchoring effect with psychology of numbers. Like it gets its hook into your brain and
it gets its own life.
And then later if you try and remember that, you forget that the initial story was wrong. Remember the initial story.
It was initially reported on MSNBC. It was a 2-car accident.
Right.
And the reporter said, "You're saying it's a 2-car accident, but when we pan our camera away, we don't see another vehicle."
Right.
And since this happened a couple of hours ago, where is the other vehicle? And there was this long pause. Oh my God, was it a long pause?
I think I saw that clip. Yeah.
And the other, did you see the asshole from Golf Channel say that, if you saw what I just described, you saw this, where he opened up by saying that this was first, we need to face it. Tiger Woods is like the Beatles. Everywhere he goes, everything he does, everybody's looking for something from him. And it was so distant from what anybody would say, would think or care about. And of course, the premise is, wait a minute, he's not like the Beatles at all. And even along the regard of what you're saying, why are you saying that everybody wants something from him? He's also adored and beloved.
Yeah,
less beloved perhaps than some. And so it was just a really stupid. And I think that Ari Melber from MSNBC regretted having him on. I don't think he turned him much for anything else. They finally got a dude on a black sports writer who knew Tiger and did a very reasonable job of talking about things in a way that this other guy was just fucking terrible.
But yeah, so I saw that initial news bulletin just before going to bed last night, and I woke up this morning and I definitely said, as I turned on my phone, please let Tiger be okay. Yeah. I want the next news thing about him to be that he's okay.
Apparently, he has a shattered ankle. His right ankle is shattered. They did reconstructive surgery. His femur and his tibia are both, they called it, I believe it was a lacerated break, which meant that the bone broke and came through the skin. Ouch. And in order to stop anything else from breaking, one of the things they did in surgery was insert a metal rod to basically replace the existing bone. I've had a broken leg, relatively minor compared to this, and I've also had a shattered ankle where I broke every bone in my ankle, every bone. The only thing I did not break was my Achilles tendon. That did not break. If that would have snapped, then I would have been fucked. So just the ankle took me almost a year to recover, and I often wished that I had simply broken my leg.
Right.
So
they say that being super muscular and fit make you a lot less susceptible to these sort of crash injuries. If your neck muscles are super strong and someone hits you from behind, you're less likely to have serious whiplash than if you are a computer doofus like I am.
It's going to be a long year for him.
Yeah. If he plays at all this year, I would be surprised. But
he won't play this year.
So
he isn't playing. He isn't playing in 2020. No way.
2021.
Or 2021, I should say. I don't know. Hogan apparently, and later in his career, suffered a collision with a drunk driver.
Yes.
And had serious leg surgery, which greatly diminished his capability, though he continued to win.
Seems possible.
Well, nobody's ever going to underestimate Tiger Woods again.
Right.
Anybody who did the first time, which I did not, but anybody who did was surprised. And they'll never do it again. The thing about it is there's got to be a will there. And while he's got an indomitable spirit, at some point, does it become clear that your goals are much less than playing golf?
Right.
So much not less, but much different. They don't include playing golf.
Right.
They include being able to walk without limping.
Right.
I limped for 3 or 4 months afterwards. It took a lot of work to get rid of that limp. But yeah, it's like, what the fuck, man? And did you see the interview that he did the day before? I did, because I'm watching the Golf Channel all the time. It was at the most current championship, which one that they had to call off because of the wind, where the golf balls would land on the green and a gust of wind would come and blow them right off the green. There's this video of a caddy pointing to a ball that starts to move, and the ball picks up such speed that the caddy bursts out laughing and laughing at the camera and pointing at the ball and laughing. And then they called it off, and then they came back. But he was interviewed, and he doesn't do this. Put on a set of headphones,
right?
And Nance interviewed him and said to him, "Are you going to play? Are you looking forward to the Masters?" And he said, "I got to get there first. I only have one back, and there's not a lot of wiggle room here." So in spite of everything that we've talked about here in his new injuries, the real question, one of the questions is, of course, so what did this do to his back? He was sitting upright and he was in his seatbelt, which saved his life, according to some, and the airbags deployed, which would all lead you to believe that at least his upper body, which wasn't crushed. My guess is that the position of the vehicle, when it hit that tree, was that it was on its side.
And it hit the bottom.
It was on its side, but it was rolling forward. So the tree hit the engine and everything behind it, crushed into where your legs
where the feet are. Yeah.
And
yeah, you got to protect from your hips up to your head is the important part to protect.
So there was something else that I sent you.
You mentioned before we started recording that you wanted to talk about Patch Adams. Do you remember anything about that?
Patch Adams.
That's the Robin Williams.
Oh yeah, I know that. I'm trying to remember what pointedly. Oh, when he admits himself to the mental hospital because he tried to commit suicide. And very early in the show, he is introduced to one of the characters who's catatonic and who is frozen with his arm up in the air. And there's a scene in group therapy where Robin Williams, who is starting to just feel the place is pretty absurd, and he's in a circle with a bunch of folks like him who are there with varying degrees of mental health problems. And he says to the doctor, who he doesn't like, because the doctor doesn't pay any attention to him really, he says, I think the guy's name was Rudy or something like that. And he says, "Doctor, I think Rudy has a question." Because his arm is stuck up.
Because you were raising your arm up and down, yes.
Because of my vaccine. But anyway, there's a hilarious scene where all the guys there start to ask him questions. Who farted? Is one of them that drives everybody into antics. And the doctor, of course, gets up and walks away. But I watched that whole movie for probably the 4th time last week.
That's an interesting parallel to his movie Awakenings.
Yes, actually.
And I remember watching that movie. I saw that movie when I was so young that I did not know, at some point when you're a kid, you realize that, oh, that character I saw in this movie is also in this other movie playing a different character. They are actually actors playing this. And I remember seeing Awakenings before I had any idea who Robin Williams or Bobby De Niro were. And just thinking that this was a movie about Oliver Sacks, of course, who I've since grown to appreciate and mourn his death recently. I've read a couple of his books, but that movie Awakenings was just, it explored a part of, and I mentioned the book beforehand, it explored a part of humanity and empathy and questioning of what is it, like we talked about before, empathy. What is it like to be that person? And if that person is stuck in a way that they can't move, you have so little information. And then to be able to administer this drug where they are then able to talk and able to say, look, I have heard every single book that my daughter has come to read to me over the past 25 years is just like, blows your fucking mind. And
blow your mind.
Anyway, that's what
it's the whole notion of our brains and our bodies and what we're clear that we're capable of doing. But more relevant to this conversation is we're not at all clear about what we could be doing. We're not at all clear about what would happen if we ended up using the 90% of our brain that we don't use. Or in your case,
kind of bullshit.
97% of your brain that you otherwise don't use. But even on a broader scale, what would happen if everybody was using their brain to that degree? What would happen to the catapulting of new knowledge and new concepts and inventions and discoveries as a result of a bunch of people being able to use more of the brains? That was the subject of the movie with John Travolta was in that we've talked about.
With the star and the...
Yeah, with Robert Duvall played Doc, the Doc.
Eric Clapton soundtrack. Yeah, that one. Yes, that whole thing about 10% of the brain has long been debunked by scientists.
In what way?
That we can now use neural imaging and see exactly what parts of the brain are being used for what. And
it's more than 10%.
Which, of course. But do you think the rest of it is just there as like counterweight for your neck? No.
I don't know, man.
It's all being used. But
I don't know, man. That's the problem with my brain.
It's like too heavy, man. This idea is too heavy. It's
counterweight. Weight to what? Counterweight to the thick skull I have above my eyes?
Something to balance out your fat ass. I don't know. No, but I've been reading about the brain hemispheres and what we know that they do, and the crazy ass split brain. Like when you take a patient and you cut their corpus callosum and their two hemispheres can no longer talk to each other. The crazy shit that you can then observe of their behavior, where
do they do that for fun, or they cut the brain in half and say, "Hey, man, watch this. Hey, Charlie, come here. I want to show you something."
It's a treatment for epilepsy, a very successful treatment. But what they can observe in these patients that have had that happen is sometimes the left hand that is controlled by the right hemisphere will go and pick up an article of clothing out of the closet, and the other hand will go and stop the other hand and go put it back. And there's clearly two people in there when they can't talk together. And apparently, most of the clever ideas and creativity and everything that makes us great is in the right hemisphere, and the left hemisphere has been focused on talking and making up stories. And apparently the left hemisphere is capable of such bullshitting that it will honestly believe, see he who shall not be named, where if you show something only to the right hemisphere and have them draw something with their left hand, the left hemisphere will just totally confabulate a story about why they did that or why they answered that way. Or it's super interesting that it seems like there are at least two people inside all of us, which is just like, what?
At least two.
At least two.
Well, that's an off storyline for a bunch of different movies. Marvel movies, Marvel comic books, true psychological stories. Sylvia, remember Sylvia?
No.
Who had 13 distinct personalities.
Multiple personality disorder has been a trope on TV for sure. I remember that. I don't know. It's as a narrative device. What did we say last episode? A narrative tool. The idea of having a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde character, or a Incredible Hulk or whatever, that's basically the same thing.
Are most of the superheroes transformed?
I know.
Maybe not most of them.
I am not a superhero expert, but I don't think so.
Well, I meant to tell you about Kalamazoo, to completely change the subject one quick second, because I'm looking outside. We had a 51 degree temperature shift.
Oh, baby.
In a week. From minus nine below zero to 46.
The episode title for last episode was Nine is Mine. 9 is mine degrees.
Minus mine.
Because you were just happy houred.
It was happy hour.
I was outside on our balcony of our second apartment working in short sleeves because it was 70 degrees.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nice.
It's gonna fall again, but we had a particularly lovely, just gorgeous sunny day, and I was like,
I got to tell you as we wind up here because I've got to go. It's a bit pensive this evening due to my vaccine, but I will also
I would call it
will tell you, and or poignant, however you want to say it, is a toast to my cousin Danny, who passed away after a long illness, not COVID, but another illness. And when I read the obituary about him, I realized how little I really knew of him. Here's to Danny.
I'm sorry to hear that. That was what it is.
It is what it is.
Low note.
Yeah, these are difficult times, bro.
It is, man. It is.
Difficult times. People fucking die and shit. It's fucking.
Apparently, my parents were able to have like a dinner party last night with, in fact, all the people that were there at our dinner party last year when you were there.
Oh, except for us.
Except for us. They apparently
all. They didn't ask us to join virtually.
They're all vaccinated.
Root of them.
I called in briefly, but not for long. And apparently, if everyone is totally vaccinated, it's okay to get together. So,
yeah,
makes science
breaking the ice, so to speak. Oh, I sent you all of the pictures of the.
Tell me about how your shed, the shed that we have heard 12 episodes about, just nonstop shed talk.
Dry as a bone.
This is the happy hour shed cast. We were for a while there.
Dry as a bone.
Dry as a bone.
Dry as a bone. But the snow, because it hit 40s, high 40s for 2 days straight, the snow shrinks. As it melts, it just gets lower and more compact as it starts to melt. And it's a shadow of what it was, but there was thunking all over town. Thunk, boom. Thunk, boom.
Thunking.
Thunk, boom, boom, boom. The huge icicles all over town that I sent you pictures of, I've all dropped off.
Nice.
Including the one that I didn't send you a picture of that I had on the corner of my house that I had to climb out my bedroom window, climb out onto the roof of the porch, which had 2 feet of snow on it.
Why is there not footage of this? This is...
God, it was all I could do. Out there with a broom so that I could poke and break the icicle from the bottom up. Bam, 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 bam. Get to the top. Thunk, thunk. And hope to God that when it fell, right, that it didn't turn strangely and smash into the wall of the house through a window. It's a chunk of ice that weighs 60, 75 pounds.
Whoa.
It's hard to lift it up.
An icicle that weighs 75 pounds.
Bigger than you. Taller than you. Bigger around than you. And I've seen them that way twice as much as you. So that when they fall off, in my one house, one fell off.
I think I'm more transparent.
Landed on the roof, put a hole in the roof, bounced off the roof and landed on the hood of my daughter's car and caused $2,100 worth of damage.
Fucking A.
After it had bounced off the roof and put a hole in the roof.
Winter's scary, man.
If I had happened to be walking by at that moment, oh no, dead. Now that's a good place to end the webcast. That's a higher note than what we just had. What happened? Smashed his brains out from an icicle, man. Fell off his house and opened his head up like a fucking watermelon.
Dennis was not killed this winter yet by an icicle.
I think we've seen the worst of the winter. But how many times have I said that?
Tell me about it.
I think we've seen the worst of the winter. How many times have I said that?
Yeah. Spring is coming.
Spring soon will be sprung. Hey, we were having Christmas on Friday.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Everybody's been vaccinated.
Sweet.
Yeah, so we're having Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.
My wife finally said, I'm going to take the goddamn Christmas tree down. I said, all right.
We're having Christmas this weekend, or we're taking the fucking tree down with no Christmas. Right. What is it?
I'm still playing Christmas blues music. B.B. King's got a great Christmas blues album that I listen to every year. I've learned a lot of pieces of it. We could play it. We're always together when it's never Christmas. Or I should say we're never together when it's becoming Christmas.
We're never together when it's traditionally Christmas.
When it's appropriate, when you would think you'd be singing Christmas carols.
But hey, man.
Or not Christmas carols. A Christmas blues tune.
Yeah.
In this case.
Well, when I'm with you, it feels like Christmas.
Well.
A big fucking white beard.
Well, from the vaccine center of the world, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah, baby. Coolest town in the world.
My wife and her sister are getting vaccinated now. This means that 100% of my immediate family and their spouses have been inoculated.
Nice.
It's a big deal.
It's huge.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
We're in Kalamazoo, where Pfizer is, where Joe Biden was just here a couple of days ago.
Yeah, he was going to be on the podcast, but he had to.
I know.
He had to go.
He felt bad about it.
Yeah.
He really did. I love you, man.
Good night, my friend.
See ya.
Peace later.
Peace.
That does it for episode number 99. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/099. If you'd like to help us out, you can go to patreon.com/happyhour. That would be awesome. Next week is the 100th episode spectacular with Moonstruck talk all for the whole hour. I imagine we're going to have to talk about this movie that Dennis thinks is so awesome. We'll see. And we'll see you next week.